First of all, we're going to say something you probably have never heard before. We're going to start translating things more correctly. And we're going to see this a lot in chapter 8 of Romans. Okay, so let's see. It says here that he told them this is going to happen, and then Kepha said, oh, no. Don't say this terrible stuff is going to happen to you. And then he gets rebuked by Yeshua, and he says, get behind me, Satan. So did he just call Kepha Satan? So when you have a mindset of not accepting what comes from above because of your change, the way you see it in your heart, the way you see it differently or the way you would rather it be, now you're in an adversarial role in your thinking, in your mindset. Am I making sense now? Okay, that's not what you were taught in Sunday school or in Sunday church or even in Messianic congregations. Matter of fact, I never taught it that way till today. Now bear in mind that the word spirit here is referring to, and same as flesh, by the way, nature. In other words, the intrinsic nature or the nature of. What's the nature of man? We call that flesh. That's the nature of man, the human thinking. Spirit refers to the nature of Elohim. Okay, let's not think about it again from that Christianese idea of it being this thing that possesses you or something. It's simply the nature. Your normal default nature as a human versus the default nature of Elohim. So he's saying is, I'm going to die. I'm going to give it for the world. This is again where he says here, this is the key verse that says he died for everyone. So let's not say that salvation has anything to do with works. It doesn't. Whether or not you get to partake has everything to do with works. He made it available to you. You can possess it. You know where it is. You know what it looks like. He made it available to everyone. He says, I give my life for the world. And we have believed, and we know that you are Messiah, the Son of the living Elohim. Peter got it at that moment. There was other moments when he didn't. That's part of the struggle. At this moment, he was getting it. But guess what? That's all of us. We have our moments when we get it and other moments when we don't. That's why you got to love Peter. He's everybody. I mean, he's your great everyman's man. I mean, he is that guy when you're all excited and zealous and ready to do whatever you need to do, and also there saying no, 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 and you're all in yourself. This is the law in you that you have your own way of seeing things. You think you have your own way of what's right and wrong. You understand that this should be this way, this should be that way. This is the law in man. It's called the law of sin and death because when you do it your way and not his way, it's called sin. And when you do it your way and not his way, it leads to death. That's why it's called the law of sin and death. Okay? So it's law of sin and death it's a law that leads to sin and death. The law of Elohim leads to life. It's the law of life. The Torah of life is because that law brings life. The other one brings sin and death. Here he's telling you the destiny of the flesh nature, and then the flesh nature leads to deeds that are fleshly deeds, which leads to death destiny. If you take upon Elohim's nature, which lead to Elohim law-related, Elohim deeds, you want to do things like Elohim would do them, like Yeshua would do them. We have the examples. They lead to a destiny called eternal life. Oh, you got to love when people say, well, I have a check in my spirit. Yes, I hope you do, a check in your spirit. I hope it's not a check in his spirit. In other words, you should be checking your nature to make sure your nature is not conflicting with his nature. But often a person who doesn't want to allow his nature to flow will say, well, I just had to check in my spirit about that. No, your flesh doesn't want to do what he said. I've heard that said a lot, and almost every time it's said, it's somebody not wanting to do what Yahweh said because, after all, their nature didn't want to do it. There's influences to our thinking. The number one influence to our thinking is what we call the nature or the mind of man, the mind of the flesh. This is the one that takes no effort to think like. You will do it automatically. It can be trained to become Elohim's nature. You can take your nature and transform it and conform it by choice. You must choose to do this. When it would go against your flesh to be patient or kind or good or joyful or loving. You understand what I'm saying? Then it takes, actually that's what, that whole thing there, the situation and how you react to it shows you which nature you're eating of. Which one are you allowing to lead? In a situation where it's tough to be loving and joyful and whatever aspect of the fruit, and you choose to be that anyway, now you're submitting to the right nature. It's not like a spirit comes in and does it for you. What shows which nature you're submitted to is how you choose to react to what happens around you. You have a free will choice on how you react to everything that happens.